Hello, gamers from around the world. This is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to today's episode of the World of Gaming. And it's gonna be a fun one. Finally, some substantial progress on the ABK deal. It will keep us busy today. But there have been some other interesting things as well. Not too many, but a couple of them, and we will discuss all of those as well. But first, I need to welcome our very special guest. Luke is here. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, it's been it's a deal that keeps on giving, doesn't it? I mean, it's just it's crazy. It's just mad. The kind of twists and turns that this takes. So I'm looking forward to speaking about it and other stuff. But yeah, I'm very well, thank you, and thank you for having me on.
No, thanks for coming on, man. We couldn't have chosen a better week for you to join because obviously you can give some well-needed insights and perspectives on this entire deal. So I'm really looking forward to discuss everything with you. And of course, with Dutch. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing well. As we discussed before we started, it's very warm today. So I'm looking forward to sitting in a pool of sweat by the end of today's show. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic, man. It sounds fantastic. Yeah, we haven't had a proper rain in like 7 weeks now here. It's disgusting. And besides the warmth, the mosquitoes are going crazy. It's like an epidemic of mosquitoes we have here. But we are not here to talk about mosquitoes and heat waves and missing AC here in Boxenberger's house. So we are here to talk, of course, about everything that happened in gaming this week. And we do that, of course, like every Thursday with an awesome community. And we see the chat is already filling up with a lot of familiar names. Shout out to you guys. Great to see you. We gotta have a fun one. So definitely let us know in the chat your thoughts. And if you do listen on the podcast services around the globe, welcome to you as well. Our gamers that listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google Podcast, and even Amazon Music. Sometimes we get one listen on Amazon Music. Even shout out to this one guy that is holding the line over there. Yeah, little reference
Shout
here.
out to him.
Shout out to him. So,
or her, whoever it is.
yeah. I'm not sure if the subscriber counter on Amazon Music is actually true, because some people in the chat have been telling us that they actually subscribed on Amazon Prime to the World of Gaming, and it still shows only one subscriber. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening over there in Amazon world. But yeah, guys, we're gonna have an awesome show. Of course, there's a lot to talk about the FTC. Losing in court, about them trying to appeal. Lina Khan is getting roasted today. We will definitely talk about that as well. The CMA, we got some news there. So there's a lot to talk about on that front. But we will also talk about some updates on recently announced Xbox first-party games like Clockwork, Revolution, of course. We'll talk about Diablo, some new game announcements, and a lot more. So, yeah, guys, let's get into it. But before we start with the news, I definitely want to hear from everyone in the chat what you guys have been playing. And Luke, what has kept you busy in gaming?
Quite a bit, actually. I think about until maybe the end of last week or last weekend, it was Final Fantasy 16, but I've finished that now.
How did you like it?
I loved it. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. It's a really long game. Like, even if you beeline, not that I beelined all the side quests, but I kind of focused mostly on the main story. And even then, I had like 40 odd hours in it.
Okay.
So you could. I think you could easily get double that if you wanted to do everything, or maybe 70 hours or something like that. But yeah, I really, really loved it. I didn't love playing at 30 FPS. That was not fun. But we do what we must because the performance mode is still not very good on that game. At least it's pretty stable 30, so that was nice. And it was nice that they did the motion blur update as well, which allows you to tweak it. So I turned it down a bit. I found it a bit excessive. Like the base version of it. So, but yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and I think it'll be up there in terms of best games this year for me so far. But there's still so many games to come out. Like I don't like that ranking's bound to change. So apart from that, a little bit of Diablo. I kind of put that on pause to play Final Fantasy 16.
We don't like to hear that. We don't like to hear that on this podcast.
You know, the thing was, I was like, I've got to kind of get through FF16 somewhat quickly to avoid spoilers online, because I'll see something to do with the story, whereas story in Diablo, like, you know, it's a lot better in this one, but it's still not a core aspects of the game.
That is true.
So yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Diablo, but then my next kind of addiction has kind of redeveloped, which is Tears of the Kingdom, because I also put that on pause to play FF16, and yeah, I've sunk a lot of hours into that over the last few days, and barely done anything actually. Like I kind of end a session and I'm like, what did I actually achieve in that? It's that kind of game where you just, you know, you mean to do something, and then at 2 hours later you've gone on a completely different, completely different route to do something else. But I think that's I
have to finish it too.
Game.
Yeah, it is a fun game. Most certainly, I have to finish it too. I also put it on pause when Diablo came out, and I barely have touched any other game ever since. Honestly,
I think that's fair.
Yeah. But I would say I'm not sure how far I am in Zelda, but you know there are these 4 main temples, and I've done 3 of them. So I'm not sure if what comes after you beat the 4 main temples. So I'm not sure how far I am into the game, but yeah, I definitely have to go back to that. But yeah, can't stop playing Diablo. So that's
a great game.
It is a lot of fun. Made some big progress this week, actually. That's what have you been playing?
Diablo, Street Fighter 6, and a little bit of GTA 5 again. Only at the request of a friend. Otherwise, I wouldn't have downloaded it at all.
Okay.
The good thing for that is that there isn't many things taking up space on my hard drive that I'm playing right now. So I had a little bit of space to install it. And games like Call of Duty and things, I don't keep them installed. I just, if somebody wants to play it, I'll reinstall it. Yeah. And then when I'm finished playing it, I'll uninstall it instead of wasting space, because I think Call of Duty is a waste of space on a hard drive. When you can fill it with glorious games like Diablo or Starfield or bigger, more narrative-driven games that are interesting to play for a longer period. But no, I've been like I said, been playing Street Fighter, been playing Diablo like everybody else. I'm looking forward to the weekend to be able to play games again and chill out for a minute and do that. So might play something else. I know there's a lot of games I need to catch up on. I need to finish a few games, so I might put Diablo on hold for a moment instead of grinding to 100 and finish off.
You can't do that. We have to grind a little over the weekend, man.
We can still do a little bit, but in terms of like solid playing, because it is taking up like every game session I'm playing at the minute, so I kind of need to pull back and finish some other games like Jedi, which has been sitting there unfinished for a bit. I do need to finish that game. So
definitely you do. It's fantastic, man.
So I need to finish that. So I'm going to do that, or at least begin to finish that game across the weekend. And but other than that, just Diablo and Street Fighter mainly.
Sweet. Well, what level are you in Diablo right now?
62, I think it was. Yeah.
62. So I took over, man. You've been ahead of myself for a bit, but
you've got the benefit of the ROG Ally.
I do. I play a lot of it.
I, however, do not.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And you can also play it in your work meetings / work breaks. I do not have that ability.
It's like perfect, man. I just hit level 70 earlier today. So I've been grinding a lot of like tier 19, tier 20 nightmare dungeons. And they are perfect, man. I think I can finish them in 7-8 minutes per dungeon. So it's perfect in between meetings, you know, you go on 1 or 2 nightmare dungeons and then just move on with work. It's fantastic, man. Having a blast. And now I hit level 70. I moved over to World Tier 4, of course, and now I can play the nightmare dungeons I finished a nightmare dungeon tier 23 earlier. Pretty rough in World Tier 4 because you only have like 4 revives in the nightmare dungeons. So gotta pay attention, but it's a lot of fun, man. Unlocked my 3rd Paragon board. I love it. It's so much fun. So let's see what have people in the chat been playing. So Dustin Lambert actually finished Redfall solo and he enjoyed it. So then we have episode 13. It says Battlefield 2042 has a cool new mode. That's really cool. Have you guys played that?
What was that for?
Battlefield 2042.
Oh yeah, I've played it, but I haven't played it for a while.
Okay.
I own the game, believe it or not, but that thing's been uninstalled for a minute.
Okay.
I go through phases of wanting to play shooters and not wanting to play shooters, and when there's a lot of narrative games out, I try to focus on them and not focus on these like repetitive shooter games that don't get any progression. So I'll probably go back to it at some point, but there's no real need, and there's no one that's like jumping on it to want us to play it. So
yeah.
So
Lady Foxfire has been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 in the chat. Nice. Masshole is playing Bramble and Fist. Sweet.
Bramble's good actually. I've been starting on that. It's a cool little. It's a little bit clunky here and there, but being an indie game, I can forgive them for that. Story's cool. The atmosphere is really creepy, which is good.
I have no idea. Which one is Bramble? Is it in Game Pass? Is it this 2D side scroller?
No.
I'm confusing things here. I'm mixing up things.
You play as like you can't even. It's not even like a dwarf or something like that. It's just you play as like a Honey I Shrunk the Kid sized person, like a little kid. And you and your sister going on an adventure, and then your sister gets abducted by this giant rat person.
Okay.
That kind of tracks you down, but it's full of like horrible things that are kind of killing the surrounding wildlife and things like that, and eating them and feasting on them and stuff like that. So it's like this creepy action, this creepy adventure game that it's more kind of the base of get away and don't be seen and things like that. It's nice.
Okay.
Nice little game.
I need to check it out then. I actually intend to play more of Benedict Fox over the weekend because I put that as well on hold, and it plays fantastic on the Ally, you know. And then I definitely want to play more of that. So what else? Phanto Sir has been playing many games, but Spider-Man Remastered mostly. That's a good one. Getting prepared for the sequel. So as always, our chat is playing a lot of cool stuff. But let's get into some topics. I actually wanted to talk to you guys about Clockwork Revolution before we get into all the ABK stuff that will probably keep us busy for the rest of the podcast. So let's get some other topics out of the way first. Clockwork Revolution, the principal lead designer called Moore, he tweeted earlier something about the game. Of course, that's in Exile's newly announced and revealed RPG during the Xbox showcase. Yeah, they've revealed that. Looked really cool, I thought, at least. And he tweeted out the following. With deep world building, compelling narrative, crunchy RPG systems, engaging gameplay, and massive reactivity, I've always described Clockwork Revolution as the love child of Arcanum and Vampire the Masquerade. So we didn't really know which tone they are going for, but comparing it to, of course, Arcanum and Vampire Masquerade, what do you guys expect from this game, Luke?
I expected something like when I saw the original trailer, I didn't automatically think it was going to be, just a pure first-person shooter. I felt that they were going to kind of dip into their RPG experience, and it sounds really like it's, if they're using those two games as a basis, it's almost like immersive sim / heavy RPG, at least in part, which is really exciting. Actually, I mean that's really cool. If they can marry that to good gunplay and abilities, then they'll have a really, really cool game, particularly from what we've already seen, which is very early on. So I thought it looked cool, and I think it being kind of RPG led is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I from the vibes of the trailer, I really did not get like Vampire's Masquerade.
No.
Arcanum I could see, maybe, I don't know, but at least from the trailer, I would have not even thought of comparing the game to one of those two. Dutch, what did you think about this?
What was that for? Which game are you talking about now? I know you're talking about the new Clockwork, but
Clockwork
I know
Orange.
that. I meant which one you're comparing it against.
Revolution.
Which one are you comparing it against?
Arcanum and Vampire the Masquerade.
See, I haven't played Vampire the Masquerade, but it didn't get great reception, so I can't really comment on it. But I'm looking. Do you know what it is? I'm looking forward to Clockwork. It was one of the big standout ones that we saw, and the information, at least that's being provided by them at the moment, that it is quite in depth in the RPG mechanics that they've got.
Yeah,
and it's really kind of well thought out systems there. Is obviously a very positive step for it. And naturally, though, we want to see more of the game. We want to see a little bit more of it, as we all do. We're greedy people.
Yeah.
But
definitely,
from what I've seen so far, though, it's the vibes are already awesome. People were comparing it straight away to the likes of why have I forgot the name of the franchise? You know which franchise I'm talking about, Boxy?
Nah.
The one that is comparing it against
Vampire the Masquerade and Arcanum?
No. The actual one we thought it was when they first announced it. We were like, okay, this looks
Fallout?
No.
I'm not sure what
another steampunk type game.
Another Steam. The Order 1886?
No, it was a big trilogy franchise. Everybody in the chat will be able to help, surely. Come on.
Surely. I have no idea what you're referring to. Luke, do you know what he's talking? Bioshock Infinite.
Bioshock, yeah.
My head is not working. Yeah, Bioshock. So, yeah, as soon as we saw Clockwork anyway, we all got the basic impression of this looks really like Bioshock, a lot like Bioshock Infinite, in fact. Which isn't a bad thing, because obviously Bioshock is a really tremendous franchise and well loved. Now, if you add in a little bit more in-depth RPG mechanics to that kind of formula, with a really interesting story, then I'm all for it. It looks fantastic. I'm really interested to see what this team can do.
Absolutely.
So bring it on. It's the first time I think I've seen InXile do something a little bit different compared to what we've seen them with the likes of Wasteland, etc.
Yeah.
Wasteland was super difficult. Like, that was a really tough game. Like,
it is tough. The problem with it really is, if you don't dig into like the RPG system really deep, you have no chance in Wasteland.
Nope.
It really requires you to.
I knew that immediately. Like, I come up against this. I remember Wasteland 3. I come up against this giant robot. It was right near the beginning. And just wiped everybody out. I was like, no matter what I did or what direction I took, I couldn't take it down. I was like, I've got no idea how to get around this. No chance. Because it was like turn-based. Because it was like turn-based, it didn't move people away quick enough. So it was like, get away, and he was just following. I was like, okay, yeah. I'm not good at this game. I'm just going to uninstall, and it's not a bad game by any stretch. It's a great franchise and a great game.
It is.
It's just not one that I'm good at.
Yeah.
I'm happy to admit that. But I am looking forward to seeing what they can do with an action RPG shooter, like a first-person action RPG.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they're capable of doing. Their story building and world building's really fantastic. So I've got no doubt it'll be the same in this.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I was also not thinking of these IPs, Vampire Masquerade and Arcanum. Kind of also weird IPs to pick them, because like you said, they didn't set the world on fire. So usually you want to this is our take on like BioShock. Yeah, BioShock is a good one to compare it to because beloved by many. But yeah, it's cool to see, and I like that they were able to announce it this year, because with the announcement itself, developers like Moore are able to at least tease certain things, talk about a little bit about the game, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to see more from Clockwork. I always want to say Clockwork Orange, it's so hard. Marian the Mad in the chat sends in a member chat for being a channel member for 1 month. Thank you, man. He says, let's smash that like button, guys. Yeah, guys, if that would be absolutely awesome. If you are here, we have over 70 live viewers already and only 28 likes. So if you could do us a favor and just hit the like button. And if you're new here, of course, we would super appreciate considering subscribing. But yeah, let's move on to some other games. Earlier this week, it seemed like EA is hiring for a third Star Wars Jedi game. The game director has previously said already that he hopes to make a trilogy. He said, Asmussen said, I always wanted to see this as a trilogy. How can we take Cal and the crew to new places beyond what we are doing in the first game? Were his thoughts. So he said, we had a pretty decent idea of time frame where we want Survivor to take place, what stakes we were going to be, what the tone of the game was going to be, what Cal is going to be up against, and how the crew was going to factor into that. And there are ideas of what we could do beyond all of that. And so some job listings over at EA suggest that they are already hiring for the third game. So, Luke, would you be excited for a third one? And did you play Jedi Survivor?
Yes, I would and wouldn't, I guess, because I unfortunately bought the PC version of Jedi Survivor. So I haven't. I've only played like a couple of hours of that game because the issues are just still terrible. I mean, they've basically not fixed it. Which is pretty appalling, to be honest. It just runs like garbage still. Just stutters everywhere all the time.
I don't know. Have they not fixed it? Because the console version actually runs great now.
Yeah, no, they've not fixed it. They have done some patches, but it hasn't actually fixed it. It has made it somewhat better, but not by very much. And they're basically kind of just radio silence, on things like Steam pages, etc. They're not really responding to say that, we are still on it. So I don't know if they're actually going to have a fix the issues, which is terrible. I think that's just appalling. So that makes me not excited really that much for a third game. What I've played of Survivor, I really enjoyed. I can see I probably really enjoy playing through it, but I'm just not going to play through it when the issues are this bad on PC. I know that the console versions are a lot better, or somewhat better now, which is great. So, but I think it still has performance issues across the board, to varying degrees. Obviously the PC being the worst.
Yeah.
And if I can't get good performance out of it with the rig I have, then I don't know what people are going to do with lower rigs. It must just be unplayable, because unfortunately the nature of stuttering is it doesn't matter. It's hardware agnostic. Effectively, it doesn't really matter what you're running. You get them anyway. So yeah, I'd be excited to see it from a kind of, I really like the series, and it would be on UE5. I'm sure it would look amazing. Survivor looks amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm really burnt by the experience of the PC port of the second game. So
can't blame you there. Although, like you said, the game actually is really good. I finished it on console. Yeah. I had a blast. Honestly, it's up there for me. And when we talk about Game of the Year, I mean, sure, Diablo right now, but Star Wars Jedi Survivor was absolutely fantastic. I loved it, but I do get your point. When it came out, performance on console was also not really good, especially not in performance mode, which sucks, But the last patches they did made it not perfect, but definitely playable. So, Dutch, what do you think? Do we need a third Survivor? I know you haven't even finished the second one.
I'm all for more single-player narrative Star Wars games. I mean, outside of the performance, the game itself and the story is fantastic. So, absolutely, give me another one. Just make sure it performs better. So that's all we request. It doesn't have to be like in terms of the story and the world building and what they've actually done in the game. It's a great upgrade, but the performance that comes along with it needs to be better. I appreciate that specifically for the performance mode. It's just not good enough, and people really don't want to be on 30 frames these days. As much as I can cope with it, and that's a stable mode and it's fine, the performance mode isn't good enough, and that's what people want to play.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we shall see. I don't expect the third game to come anytime soon, so it'll be a while before we see something and hear something from that. But yeah, guys, let's get into the main juice of this week. There's so much we need to discuss, so we try to break it down. So earlier this week, of course, it was announced that Judge Corley denied the FTC their case. So basically, the FTC lost to Microsoft, and a lot of different statements came out of that. Of course, Phil Spencer directly took it to Twitter. He said, "We are grateful to the court for swiftly deciding in our favor. The evidence showed the Activision Blizzard deal is good for the industry, and the FTC's claims about console switching, multi-game subscription services, and cloud don't reflect the realities of the gaming market. Since we first announced this deal, our commitment to bringing more games to more people on more devices has only grown. We've signed multiple agreements to make Activision Blizzard games, Xbox first-party games, and Game Pass available to more players than there are today. We know that players around the world have been watching this case closely, and I'm proud of our efforts to expand player access and choice throughout this journey." Brad Smith has also put out, of course, a statement. He said, "After today's court decision in the US, our focus now turns back to the UK. While we ultimately disagree with the CMA's concern, we are considering how the transaction might be modified in order to address those concerns in a way that is acceptable to the CMA in order to prioritize work on these proposals. Microsoft and Activision have agreed with the CMA that a stay of the litigation in the UK would be in the public interest, and the parties have made a joint submission to the Competition Appeal Tribunal to this effect. A lot of other things have been said as well. So, and then, actually, for me, it was earlier today. I think it was yesterday for the folks in US. The FTC actually wants to appeal the decision of the judge. So, guys, any surprises about this decision by the court in the US? Did we expect it? Luke, what do you think? Being a lawyer, of course not in the US, but in the UK, what did you make of the findings from that court statement in the UK?
Yeah, I wasn't. I mean, I didn't listen that much to the proceedings that were going on, which were all live broadcast effectively. But the bits that I did listen to, particularly in I listened to quite a lot of the last day, and then a bit before that. It didn't really surprise me that the judge came to the conclusion that she did, because I think, you know, the difficulty in the US, if you're the FTC, is that the standard of review effectively for these injunctions is, you know, is it likely you're going to have, and this is really kind of broadly, I'm not a US lawyer, but basically the evaluation is, what kind of case will you have, right, in front of an actual administrative judge within the FTC, or beyond that, a federal judge. And once it gets to that stage, you're dealing with like so many variables, and the FTC's case was really not well argued at all. Predominantly, I think, because they focused on the console SLC that they'd identified, which no other regulator even considers remotely plausible now, and it's a really hard one to be able to defend. I'm not saying they would have won if they'd solely focused on the cloud, but it seems to me it
wasn't really a topic during the FTC trial. Cloud was barely mentioned. It was kind of just an ancillary, a corollary to the console stuff. So I didn't think that it was really that well argued. So and as I say, not that I think the cloud stuff would have won them, you know, the case, but it would have been a better route for them to go, surely. So I wasn't surprised. I was a bit cautious, because always, you know, you never know how a single judge is going to actually come to a determination. I think most people will like that, because you just cannot know that. But in the end, it didn't surprise me. You know, it's a really big win for Microsoft. Obviously, the FTC are now appealing, but I really don't think they'll get anywhere with that at all. It's very, very difficult in the US to get anywhere with that sort of stuff. So it's a big hurdle down for Microsoft, and I guess the next week-ish, or maybe less than that, is going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. Like, really interesting. So we will talk about what happens or could happen in the UK in a second, but I do agree. I think a lot of people here in the chat, of course, and also out on social, I've seen everyone was like, the case was really not well presented by the FTC. A lot of their arguments didn't make sense, or were so obviously wrong that even the non-lawyers could tell, okay, this is really not a good argument for them. And with the appeal, this is so weird, because what would you appeal against? What you would have to bring up new arguments. This is, but what else? What has changed? What has changed? What could you actually?
We know that the argument that they're apparently going for, based on today's grilling of Lena Khan, is that they've made a legal mistake in there, or legal wording was incorrect, but it's not. It's like they're saying the judge made a legal wording mistake. in there, but it isn't.
Okay.
Essentially, they're saying because the judge said it may or may not harm. They're saying no, that has to harm or something like that. But no, the legal precedent means that it's not a case of it. She basically said that you have to show definitive proof that it will harm consumers and competitors and competition. But you haven't done that, and they're trying to argue that the law is it may harm. But then the judge, of course, has already stated in previous cases, in that particular circumstance, if it was a case of just showing it may harm, then every transaction under the sun will be blocked.
Yeah.
So you can't use that word literally. You can't use may literally, otherwise you can literally block
and
every
that's the ground on which they'd want to appeal. I mean, it's so obvious that they simply want to stall it, because we all know that deadline is coming up. Yeah, July 18th. That's Tuesday next week. Or Wednesday? Tuesday next week. After that, ABK could walk away from the deal, and they would have to renegotiate the price. So that's kind of a deadline for them, and it's so obvious that this appeal is simply trying them stalling the entire thing. Yeah, but that something is wrong with the FTC, I think, became really obvious today during the hearing. With Lina Khan. I mean, people in the chat are always saying, yeah, she's getting roasted today. So we've all watched, hopefully, a couple of those little videos that have been shared across Twitter and everywhere else. So it turns out that Lina Khan apparently does not even have a lawyer's license. So she's running the FTC, and when directly asked about the appeal, she blamed it on her staff, like it was a staff recommendation. Then the guy in the tribunal simply said, "Hey, but you are the head. You are responsible for what happens at the very end. Don't blame it on your employees." Yeah. So, Luke, did you see anything of this? With Lina Khan, and what did you make of this?
I saw some tiny bits, like Twitter clips and stuff. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of watching stuff like that, because with all due respect to the US, it's so partisan. Like it's basically a bunch of, like, say what you will about the FTC and Lina Khan, etc. Those kind of scenarios are effectively Republican, docking stations to have a go at a Biden appointed, FTC leader. So naturally they're going to be super critical and really go for it. I don't think, to me, like, it didn't seem to glean a lot of information, because I think most people could say that the way that the FTC is being run isn't particularly great, because it's quite agenda driven rather than fact driven. It's quite driven by ideology mostly, and that's not necessarily an ideology that is commensurate with benefiting consumers in the end. And I think people can say that and say, well, I don't think Lina Khan is maybe the track she needs to take should be different. But I don't like congressional hearings, because they're just so partisan. It kind of stinks, and you get this weird pile-on of people kind of adding to that fire, and I just don't think that's necessary. I think clearly the FTC needs to be looked at somewhat as to whether they align really with the tasks that they're supposed to do. But naturally, I think that changes from incumbent government to incumbent government, doesn't it? So those are my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. I definitely see where you're coming from. We don't have those kind of hearings here in Germany, so it's like when I watch that, it's always like, okay, that's something American. But on the other hand, the little clips that I have seen, I haven't watched the entire thing. I don't know whether it's actually available, the entire thing, but a lot of clips have been posted on Twitter. I've been watching those earlier, and
it was live on YouTube.
It was live
the
on
entire
YouTube.
thing. I was watching our work. Yeah, it was on CNBC.
See, and what I do like about it is like sometimes when politicians get criticized here, and they have to like justify their actions and stuff, it's always like not with these presented with these simple terms, it's always behind closed doors, and you only get statements from lawyers. And what I did like about this is like, okay, so like the obvious questions, like, are you wasting taxpayers' money? Are you agenda driven? Do you take on cases where you actually think you might lose them? And it's like, at least it is made public. We don't have that here in Germany, so I do gotta give them that. It is very transparent, at least. What did you think of this hearing of Lina Khan here today?
Oof. It wasn't just one thing. She had a pile on a number of topics. Obviously, the most recent case, and which is why they're bringing it up. The most recent case is the Activision Blizzard merger,
and it's probably one of the biggest she's ever done. So
yeah. But it was just a case of, and again, they're bringing up the fact that for large tech mergers, she's lost all 4 cases she's attempted to take to court, and even now has an ongoing case with another company regarding a cancer kind of treatment product that they're bringing to the market for the first time, where there isn't a market, that they're saying is anti-competitive. And they were kind of arguing with us, saying, listen, there isn't even a market to be competitive in.
Well,
you can't.
That's Illumina Grail, I think, what you're referring to. But the EU have just levied an absolutely gigantic fine on Illumina for closing over. Nearly €500 million. So they're kind of in lockstep, the FTC and the EU on that one.
Yeah, it is mad. But again, I don't think any of those understand it, and again, it's something that they're competing against. Now, the big kind of bit that's eluded people at the end of it, though, is that there is a bill being passed to actually end up reducing, and I put the little clip of it there, reducing the fund, the FTC funding, by 25% instead of the requested increase of 37%. And they expect that is going to be passed. So the FTC funding, based on today's lack of evidence or documents provided to Congress, is actually getting a reduction, essentially. They knew coming into this that if she didn't provide documentation that they'd requested prior to coming in today, that they would likely end up reducing the expenditure of the FTC, and that looks like what they're doing, by 25%. So it's not been a good day for her. But it was just on all angles. And again, I know the EU and the UK, etc. The EU were absolutely fine with the remedies provided by
Microsoft,
Activision Blizzard, and Microsoft. The UK have temporarily paused, and we'll get into that in a bit, in order to discuss structural changes, not remedies, structural changes to the deal that may pass it, and we'll discuss that in a bit as well. But the FTC, the entire case that they presented, followed by the grilling that she got today, and the method in which they're trying to fight this case in court, the grounds are completely way off kilt. Like there was zero evidence provided anyway. We knew the way it was going, but again, we all had a little step of caution, say you just never know. You just never know which way they're going to go. However, based on what we heard, you would think there is absolutely no way that this isn't going to get denied, because what was presented was a flawed system. Essentially, they said, okay, well, it's 20%. Where are you getting that figure from?
Yeah.
Or well, it's the model. Yeah, but where's the model based on? What is that based from? Where are you getting this 20%? Well, and he couldn't explain the model that he was using to get that 20% mark. And even then, the judge went, even if I reduced that to 17.5%, it would still not give Microsoft an advantage or a reason to withhold the Call of Duty from the console.
Yeah,
it still would, because it would financially, the financial difference on what they would lose on Xbox versus what Sony would lose versus what Microsoft would gain isn't there. Like, the financial benefit isn't there for them to do that. So there's a flaw. Again, as you mentioned, the cloud argument was nigh on non-existent. They didn't touch it. And that is the market in which can be argued about, because console, there isn't a console harm. There is nothing to state that would be console harm. It's not a big enough swing of users that would go over should games be made exclusive. So
even the CMA, the only authority that actually really hard blocked the deal, didn't see console as a
well, they did originally, but that's only because they made a mistake. Yeah, they made a mistake. Well, I would say a mistake. I think it intentionally skewed the figures, I think, personally. And when pulled up on it, because they know if they did end up going to CAT and that mistake was still there, it would have automatically been requested to be reanalyzed. And I think even saying that, if I think, regardless, I know there's been further progressions on this. There will be movement before the 24th, because that's when the CAT hearing would have been or will be. And if it isn't agreed upon for some form of restructuring by that point, then it will still go to CAT.
See, I'm not sure. I know you've been saying this entire week to me, but I don't think so, man. Have you seen that earlier today? It was announced that the Activision Blizzard stock is taken down off Nasdaq.
Oh yeah, that's them produced. That's getting them ready to close, but it doesn't mean that they won't be heavily penalised in the UK if they do so over the top of an IO.
Yeah, it also wasn't. It wasn't their stock. I think there's some weird headlines going around misinterpreting what happened, but they haven't been delisted from Nasdaq. They've been taken out of the Nasdaq 100 index, which is an index that's made by Nasdaq that tracks 100 companies in Nasdaq. You can get an ETF, invest money into it, and then it'll track the index depending on how those 100 companies do and how that's aggregated. So that's what they've been taken out of. Their shares will only be delisted from Nasdaq following completion of the merger.
Okay.
But it is still it's still weird timing, because they get delisted the day before the 18th, which so happens to be the day after the temporary restraining order lifts. But it's difficult to read into that how much of that is premeditated, because I don't know whether Activision planned that well in advance because they expected to close by then and they're just going through with it now, whether it's more indicative of an attempt to close very shortly, very imminently. So yeah, I don't know, but I do agree with Dutch that something has to happen with the CMA here.
Yeah,
like that is the final piece of the puzzle, and it's really, I just have no idea what is going to what's going on, because I kind of flip between, well, maybe they got something worked out, and then flip between, well, maybe they're not actually even trying to do that. They're trying to, that it's going to take more time, basically, than the 18th, which, by the way, I think it's, as you might have mentioned, the 18th is not it's not what's called a drop dead rate or a drop dead provision or a long stop, which means that the deal terminates automatically if you don't do X by that time. The 18th day is the date by which, after that, if the deal hasn't completed, then a party like Activision can unilaterally terminate the agreement just by notice. They can just say, we're out, give us our $3 billion. But I can't see them putting themselves in a position, given where they are at the moment, where there's one hurdle, right? There's a final hurdle. It's a difficult one, but there's a final hurdle with the CMA and CAT. I don't see ABK saying, well, if we don't close by the 18th, we're just going to terminate, because it wouldn't seem to me that's really in the best interest of their shareholders. They could keep going for a bit, or they could extend. There's all these kind of considerations going on, and I don't know exactly what's happening. Like, nobody knows, because we're not Microsoft or ABK or the CMA or anything.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't have any insight into it. So that's why it's really interesting. Actually, this bit of it is really, really interesting. But I can't see Microsoft closing over that order, because multiple reasons. One, they've just agreed with the CMA to pause the CAT proceedings to try and work something out, to try and work a deal restructure out. And so the CMA have said, yeah, that's fine. We'll have to reevaluate kind of the case if you do that, but fine, we'll agree to.
Do you not think it's the other way around, Luke, based on what's happened with the FTC? Do you not think the CMA have reached out to Microsoft, Activision, Blizzard and said, well, let's renegotiate something?
I don't know. Like, I mean, this is the thing. I don't know that,
because it was awfully too on the money from where the FTC decision was.
Yeah, it was quite close timing wise, wasn't it? But I don't know. I mean, you know, nobody said either way from Microsoft or the CMA who instigated that.
Who initiated?
Yeah. So like, it's really hard to know. But like, I don't. Yes, but in any case, the order is still in place. The CMA can't. They won't revoke the order until they've determined the reference, which is when they've made the final order, right? And then the final order replaces the interim one. That's not due until the end of the month. And they kind of were quite bullish yesterday, the CMA, after Microsoft's initial statement being like, well, the final report still stands. So, and our decision still stands. So, I just don't know. Like, I mean, it's really wild, but I don't think Microsoft are going to close over that order. I think something has to happen there, because otherwise, like I said, they've just, you know, whoever's instigated it, they've come to a conclusion that they want to stay the litigation proceedings. Cool. They're now, you know, supposedly negotiating in good faith to try and come to some arrangement. If Microsoft were to close over, that's incredibly bad faith. Right now, I don't know if the CMA are using it as a delay tactic of their own, but I don't think Microsoft want to be seen as, you know, operating in bad faith throughout that process. Yeah. And obviously, the bigger one is that the breaching that order brings a heavy fine, and potentially the CMA going to court themselves to get an injunction. Funnily enough, then they'd have another piece of litigation on their hands, Microsoft. So I just, like, I don't know. But that's why I can't see it. But something has to give somewhere. Like, either they're going to work something out maybe and close soon, or the CMA won't budge and they'll just take it to CAT and they'll just continue on until they get some conclusion there, or something in between those. I have no idea.
I mean, the CAT tribunal is on, I think, 24th, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. How fast would we get a decision after that? So is it really like the 1 day or whatever, however long it is, and then they get the decision as soon as, like with the FTC case, like it was 3 days, work days?
No, you would. I mean, I guess it depends on how expedited CAT can deliver it, but I mean, typically it would be about a month.
I think what we have seen as well, though, is because prior to the FTC going for this PI, or at least when the PI was kind of, at least that's what they were stipulating they were going for. Then we saw the CMA apply for essentially a delay in the CAT proceeding, which was denied, and the judge kind of accused the CMA of delay tactics on that front. They kind of, no, you've already held this case up for long enough. It shouldn't have took this long in the first place. We'll proceed on the exact date. I can't see that same judge wanting to delay this any further either. I think CAT will absolutely want to get this done ASAP.
Yeah, the problem is, I guess, that because they've now agreed to a stay in proceedings, that will probably delay the start of the cat case, because they're probably going to stop. They'll cease work on actually the hearing stuff, or kind of put that on the back burner to some extent, and then focus on the cat stuff. So they may move the hearing. I don't know if it'll move it a lot, but it might move it a few days or a week or something. Like, but because we don't know, this is the problem with all of this. We don't know what they're doing behind the scenes and exactly how long that will take to work through to a point where the CMA either go, yes, that's fine, we're going to let you close, or go, actually, no, we're not happy with whatever you proposed restructuring of the deal you've come up with, so we're going to have to continue to cat. Like, we don't know where that is, and we don't know the motivation of Microsoft within that period as to what they want to do. That's why it's all really difficult to guess or estimate what's going to happen next.
Do you think, in my feeling as well, with regards to what the restructure would be, and we kind of mentioned this yesterday on there, the cloud is the market that they're concerned about. This nascent cloud market that makes up 2,000 to 10,000 users in the UK, a very, very insignificant portion of the UK user base. Do you think there could be a section there where Microsoft say, listen, we'll restructure the deal so that the cloud portion of this aspect is not in the UK? Do you think that would be potentially something that we'd look at, where they say, okay, then we exclude the cloud portion of this transaction for the UK market in order to get this?
I mean, on paper, like, yes, that could be something. I mean, let's ignore like the practical elements of how that would work. Like, in terms
it would
of
only, and again, it would specifically only affect Activision Blizzard games on the cloud,
in the UK,
not on Game Pass or anything like that.
Yeah.
Users would still get access to the content, just not via xCloud.
Just not, so I like, on paper, yes, but the problem is that the CMA effect, like that's still a behavioural remedy. It's not a divestiture. And the CMA just rejected that in their final report entirely, as in behavioural remedies, contractual stuff, self-serving party behaviour. So that's where I'm like, I don't know if that's even like, because surely Microsoft, they've got a lot of smart people on this, right? So surely their attempt isn't to go, well, you know what? We know that the CMA hate behavioural remedies, but let's craft a new one for them. Because I can't see that going anwoanywhere, because the CMA seems to be stuck to, their decision, which rejected anything like that. So whilst on paper, I think that would potentially work. It's not on me as to whether whether the CMA will accept it. So I don't know.
But it's hard to know what the structural, if that's classed as remedial, if that's classed as that, what would be classed as structural that would get this through? We saw premature reports that a minor structural divestiture had been agreed, and I said immediately that wasn't the case, and someone from CNBC in America isn't going to know that information within the first hour.
It was debunked as well by CNBC. Yeah, they came back and said that something had been offered, but they had no idea if the CMA had accepted it, which was against what they said before, where they're like, yeah, the CMA have agreed, and they were like, actually, sorry, no, we got that wrong. I've been trying to figure out, like, I've been really thinking over the last day, I'm like, okay, based on what Microsoft has said and the statements they've made, what is the thing? They must have something they think is a winner with
that
this,
isn't going to damage users.
Yeah, that isn't going to damage users, and that's going to satisfy the CMA, and that has to be somewhat, it has to have a restructure of the deal to some extent, just for the UK. But I don't know what that is. Like, I've got no idea. Like, I'm literally there. Like, I've got no idea what that is. And the other thing is that if they do restructure the deal, because I've been thinking about this as well, they can't just ad hoc change terms like that. So they would need to agree the deal, and then obviously present that to the CMA. But they're not gonna sign a deal to do all this restructuring with ABK just on the hope that the CMA go, yeah, that seems good. So I think what they're doing is coming up with a kind of long document-led proposal, being like, this is exactly what we will do to this deal. This is how we'll try and do something to make you like this, and then we'll present it to you. And then if you reevaluate and have a look and agree, then we'll sign it and we'll close it. Whenever you issue the order, whenever you issue your revised final report. But I don't know. I don't know if anybody else has any ideas about what this deal restructure is, because it just, I don't know what I've thought about all the options, but the CMA don't like any of them. So I don't know.
So when the timing of this entire CMA renegotiation kind of deal was so odd to me, right after the decision was made by Judge Cawley in the US. And so I was thinking, but I'm not sure if this kind of works in the legal system in the UK. But I'm sure you do. Is has Microsoft actually the chance to take the CMA's decision also to a court, and is so that another independent judge in the UK can look, okay, no, this decision is not okay. I know they have to go through CAT. Let's see, but they don't make the decision yes or no for the deal. They just make the deal. Okay, we have to. Yeah. They have to re-evaluate that. Can you actually take it to court? Because it sounded to me, as being the simple man I am, okay, CMA might be afraid that if an independent judge looks at this, they would come to the same conclusion like in the US, and that's why they're willing to re-evaluate that decision. And now the only thing Microsoft needs to do is make the CMA not lose their face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Would something like that be possible in the UK?
No, it's not. It's not possible in the UK because there's a set statutory procedure for antitrust for mergers, and the way that you appeal is through CAT. So you can eventually take it to court if you fail at the CAT appeal, and then CAT give you permission to appeal to the Court of Appeal, which is a separate court. But they only do that on points of law. So it has to be something it's even stricter than CAT's analysis, right? It has to be something really wrong with some element of the law that the CMA have applied.
Okay.
For you to even get there. So no, they can't. I mean, that's why, and I said months ago last year, I was like, I don't think anybody really needs to worry about the FTC case, because ultimately the FTC don't have any teeth as an antitrust regulator against mergers, because you can just go, actually, we're just going to, all right, take us to court for an injunction. And then a judge literally sits there and thinks and goes, well, what do I think about the merger? Do I think it's anti-competitive? And if they say no, as we've seen, they just go, well, sorry, FTC, off you go. In the UK, the route is, and this is why the CMA is a really difficult regulator, the route is very narrow and it's very difficult. So I don't, there's no way for them to get around that in that way.
Okay, so they would really like to have or restructure the deal in a certain way so that the CMA basically has to reevaluate the entire thing. It seems to me that Microsoft is, well, don't want to say hurry, but I lack of a better word, to actually close the deal. And who can blame them? I mean, it's been going on for 1.5 years now. Is this actually a factor in all these CAT hearings then, and the second investigation of the CMA? I mean, waiting on this deal costs a business a lot of money. Yeah, I mean, you can basically also, if it wouldn't be Microsoft, they basically have more or less endless money, but other companies would simply give up for the matter of the fact that they wouldn't be able to afford it anymore. Is something like that factored in all these decision-making processes?
In terms of How do you mean in terms of?
So is it basically? My question ultimately is, okay, how fast after CAT can we expect like CMA looking at this, making a new decision? And
I see. Yeah. The answer is it's not a particularly fast process, because it depends on what happens with CAT, right? If it goes to CAT, like if it ends up going there, who knows at this point. If it goes there and CAT, you know, on one of the grounds that Microsoft have advanced under their appeal, they agree with one of those grounds, they uphold one of those grounds or multiple of those grounds, and they quash elements of the report that relate to those grounds, which could be a little or it could be a lot. Then it goes back to the CMA. They'll remit the case. And by the way, anybody who's telling you that the CAT can just make a decision on their own is talking nonsense. So don't listen to that. And then when it goes back to the CMA, they kind of just do a fast-tracked phase 2 reanalysis. And it would depend on, again, the length of time depends on, I think there is a statutory time period they have to come back. It might be like 6 weeks. I can't remember off the top of my head, to be honest. But it's not like quick. It's not like a couple of days later they'll come back and they'll be like, oh, actually, here's a new report. It takes weeks. So, yeah, and this is the thing. Like, if they do the CAT appeal, they'll do the CAT appeal, even if CAT, let's say, are really rapid with their judgment. It's still going to take a few weeks, and then the CMA element is still going to take a few weeks. So you're looking at probably a couple of months, and at that point, like, what do they want to do with that? I think the problem for Microsoft at the minute is that the balance of power in that merger agreement has shifted from them to Activision. So actually Activision now hold many of the cards without formally extending any termination dates. So it's going to be depending on what Activision want to do at this point. So I don't know.
And how crazy would it be if Bobby Kotick just walks away from the deal? Because that's something we learned from the FTC trial, that he himself seems not like a big fan of this entire deal.
Because he's going to be forced out. That's why he knows he's going to be forced out.
I mean, but he's getting like a good severance package, right? I mean, with 400 million, I mean, the departure might feel okay. Dutch, let me get your thoughts in a second, but I need to catch up on the super chat from Dave Ramos, who sends into dollars. Thank you so much, man. He says the deal will close. #na. Hey, goodbye. Yeah, if we listen to Luke, it might take still a few weeks, because they're not gonna overrule the CMA and just move on with it. And if we have to wait the formal way to go through CAT and then the reevaluation, we will still be talking about this by the time I'm 40, Dutch. I will be 40 in 2 weeks, so
we'll be good.
yeah. So, but I interrupted you earlier. So, what did you want to say, man?
Yeah, no, it was just regards Bobby Kotick, and he's saying he's doing it because his shareholders have requested it. That's why he's doing it now. I don't think he's going to renege on the deal, because he can't afford his shareholders to be absolutely furious with him, which they will be if he does. And as much as people like to think that he would do it and ignore all of the shareholders, which unanimously voted for the deal, I think is unlikely. As much as he might not like it personally, he's not going to go against shareholders at all. He's not. They would just end up essentially taking all their shares out and just say, okay, then F you, goodbye, and he would lose a boatload of funding. Not worth it.
And he has to, as a director, as a member of the board, he has to act in the best interest of the shareholders. It's a legal duty. So, and I think he said as much actually at the FTC hearing. He was like, well, that's what the shareholders want. That's the best way of returning value to them. So I have to do it, even if himself he may not like the merger or what Microsoft proposed to do with ABK after the merger. It's really not in his control. What is in his control is, I guess, or the board's control is what they do about the deal, the structure of it, the commercial stuff with Microsoft. But yeah, he's not. Kotick's a lot of things, but he's a very astute, clever businessman.
Yeah. Otherwise, he would be in that position.
He wouldn't be there. Yeah. So he's fully aware of his obligations. And he'll be advised as such.
Yeah. I think so too. It's just, like you said, it's weird to see how the powers will shift through that. So, obviously we don't know. Not even Luke has an idea what could be the restructuring of the deals from Microsoft. Do you have any ideas what they could do?
Well, I've already stated one, but apparently, and Luke's already corrected me rightfully there and said that's a behavioral remedy, not a structural remedy. Although you would think taking out cloud, which is what they're identifying as a market, would be a structural change to the company. But no, it's behavioral. So okay, if you're removing that out, which apparently they're not happy with, I have absolutely no idea what they could do to structurally change the company in the UK. Like, what could you structurally do that doesn't harm the consumers in the UK?
You could found a new company. They've
already got a new company. They've already got one.
You create a new company in the UK.
Yep.
That will take over xCloud in the UK.
You could do that, but that's not divestiture. Because it's still an operating company of Microsoft and ABK. Yeah. So it's basically.
And if it's run independently?
Still not, because if it's a company can't be run independently where the ultimate shareholder is still Microsoft. Because the directors have to run the company in the best interest of the shareholders. And if the shareholders are still Microsoft, then it's not independent. Okay. So they could be board independent in terms of their business and how they conduct xCloud and not have any direct interference from Microsoft. There are structural ways to do that, but you cannot be independent because you're still a part of the Microsoft group and you still have shareholder obligations and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was proposed a while back, and it does on paper it looks like it could be the solution, but. This is the time, by the way, when they come out on Monday or whenever, and the CMA go, "Yeah, we agreed to that. Yeah, that sounds good." So don't take don't take my word as gospel, but just working it through in my mind, like it's not. I can't see why the CMA would go for that unless there are so many layers to it that I can't even comprehend.
What about the political aspect of it?
I was going to say it's not political, but it could just be as well. There's a lot of posturing publicly, especially in the Verge article where they said we're not going to accept remedies. Could just be a lot of posturing because of what they've essentially potentially initiated here, which is to discuss potential remedies or potential changes in order to pass the deal based on the FTC's decision. So it could be a little bit of posturing on their behalf to say, listen, we're not going to discuss X, Y, and Z just to keep the kind of public out of the loop in that sense, whilst they discuss these potential changes, which could end up being behavioural remedies, i.e., not having cloud in the UK and removing that as a market just in the UK, so they don't have to monitor it. Essentially, that's what the UK are arguing: is they don't want to monitor the contracts that have been offered to cloud partners around the world. They don't want to have to do the legwork and monitor that situation. Which is why they haven't looked at the contracts in the first place. Whereas the European Union, the European Commission, have essentially said, yeah, we're happy to make sure and enforce the contracts that you have presented to us for these cloud agreements with these companies. The UK are unwilling to do that enforcement. They don't want to do it. They just want a clean break. Once the deal is agreed or denied, that is it. They just want, it's agreed, no longer think about it, it's done. We don't want to have to monitor it afterwards. And that's the difference between the EU and the UK. Is the EU are happy to kind of monitor it after the fact and make sure that they're upholding their end of the bargain. The UK don't want that. They just want a clean break. They just want the deal done and then not think about it ever again. So I think it could just be posturing. It could just be that they end up coming up with an agreement where they say, okay, well, xCloud is no longer going to be, or at least
the part of the UK.
Blizzard. Well, yeah, or even Activision Blizzard's involvement in xCloud in the UK will not be there. So they will not get Activision Blizzard content on xCloud in the UK. How that might work, because again, that is then harming consumers, and then realistically, if they went down the track of of that, then it is. I don't know whether or not it'll be anti-competitive, or whether or not it would be classed as harming consumers, and then the CMA have got another problem on their hands there. So I don't know how they're going to work around it.
Yeah, it will be very interesting to see. And so the timing of the Nasdaq thing, apparently, I don't know. I don't know.
It's definitely a prelude to what they're planning to do by Tuesday.
I expect to hear at least some news by Tuesday. You know how this is gonna continue.
My only issue is, and I think Luke would agree on this front, I don't think whatever agreements they're discussing at the CMA, there is absolutely no chance that they're going to have an agreement by Monday.
Yeah,
I just don't think the turnaround time is that quick.
Yeah, no.
Even
if you're working on it rapidly, I mean, it's just not.
Yeah,
it's not feasible to get something in place by then.
Yeah,
and as I said earlier, it's not even getting it in place. Microsoft won't, and ABK won't want to get it in place. They won't want to sign anything until they've submitted it to the CMA, because otherwise, then they've signed something that they'd have to amend again if the CMA don't like it. So Dutch, Boxy, I just don't know these days, I just don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, this is the real, there's been entertaining bits that have happened throughout this process, but this, and you can always kind of if having experience in the stuff, you can always, and I've always tried to do this, outline, okay, here's the facts about where this can go, and this is what I think might happen, but I don't know that. But with this one, this time, I legit don't have a clue what is going to happen next. I couldn't, if you were to ask me a prediction, you could predict 20 different things, and none of them would have any massive probability over the other, because it's really difficult to know. It's mad. It's really entertaining, but it's mad.
It definitely is. But to me, at least, the fact that the CMA is not directly taking it to CAT and okay, no, we are willing to talk again. It does seem to me that this is at least a positive step in the right direction.
Yeah, and they are bound to do that. If the deal changes, which is apparently what's proposed, they're bound to go and look at it again. They have to do that under law, because they've assessed, all their reports, their phase 1, their phase 2. It's all been on the basis of the current deal.
Yeah.
So once that gets changed, they have to redo it again. So I'm sure they're not going into it with absolute bad faith. I mean, maybe they do like the idea of delaying the CAT proceedings because they've tried to do that themselves. But I think that they genuinely will have a look. I just don't. I think the bigger question is, I don't know what Microsoft can offer them. I don't know what restructuring they can do with the deal to get CAT on board.
Question. Yeah. So we shall see. We shall see. I mean, at the end, I think. Yeah, it's been entertaining for 1.5 years now. We all wanted to be over, and everyone was hoping, okay, come on, and it's so close now. It's so close. Some people are really excited about the deal. Others just want it to be over. Where do you guys stand on the general deal? Because I've been having a lot of discussions lately on Twitter, because I've said that this deal is not for me. I was way more excited about Bethesda, because from Bethesda I got like a dozen games that I'm really looking forward to be in the Xbox roster. Yeah, we get Doom, Wolfenstein, all the Bethesda games, studio games like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, now Starfield. We have all these amazing games, and from Activision Blizzard, what would we actually get? So, what would I get out of this deal personally? Yeah, Call of Duty, we won't get it into Game Pass before 25. Yeah, and I'm not even a big Call of Duty fan. I would play like the 5-hour campaign once a year and be done with it. So, and Blizzard releases a new Diablo every 12 to 15 years. So, yeah, that's cool. Definitely love Diablo. No secret here, but other than that, the deal is really not for me. I'm not a World of Warcraft player, and I don't play on mobile. So, but others are really excited for all the legacy titles. So where do you guys stand on this, Luke?
Yeah, I'm not. I'm in the same boat as you, to be honest. Like, I'm not. I'm kind of indifferent to it because, first of all, I'm not like. I don't like. I think there are people on the internet who treat, like Xbox and PlayStation and other platforms like football teams, right?
Yeah.
And they have great attachment to them, and they see the, like acquisitions as a bit like, signing Haaland or whatever, like it's a big win for their club. Like, I don't really care what the companies do in terms of acquisitions, as long as it doesn't harm me as a consumer in the end, which I don't think ABK does. If anything, it benefits me as a Game Pass Ultimate subscriber. So that's a cool element of it. But does it get me excited? Does it get me excited that they're going to run ABK? No, because it's not as if ABK are bereft of resources anyway. It's, they're already a massive company producing huge budget games. Whereas I think, as with you, Bethesda was a bit more exciting because it was like, okay, yeah, but they've got, Tango or Arcane. Like, what could those studios do with no, much bigger budgets, right? Like, that's much more exciting to me as a fan of those studios. This one, I'm not that interested. I mean, it's cool that if it goes through, Call of Duty will come to Game Pass eventually, and Blizzard games, their new games eventually. I love Blizzard, but as you say, they don't really make much.
Yes, exactly.
They take a long time to make a single game. It's it just doesn't really excite me. I'm not against it by any stretch, but it's just not exciting, like as an acquisition. Not that I generally find them exciting, but I don't see the possibilities. And I think part of that as well, just to add, and then I'll let Dutch speak, is that I don't see anytime soon Microsoft letting, say, Infinity Ward make something else.
Yeah,
like that would be hugely exciting.
Saying the exact same thing. So people always come at this deal and look at this deal. So yeah, but they could bring back this IP or that IP.
Yeah,
but realistically, why would Microsoft change that money printing machine that is Call of Duty? Why would they ever do that? So in the foreseeable future, for the next 3-5 years, most certainly not. They will not touch this oiled machine that produces a big Call of Duty every year. And all these studios, they need them to do that with that production quality. Activision didn't take off Beanox for or put Beanox on a Call of Duty just for the sake of it. No, because they need that. And why would Microsoft change that? It's not going to happen. Yeah. On the contrary, if they want to bring it to more platforms like the Nintendo Switch, that will take up additional. Exactly. That will take up additional resources. So that's not going to happen. I mean, eventually I could see them like found 1 or 2 new studios within the division, and then they will greenlight, I don't know, another StarCraft. I would love that. Yeah. But then I would have to wait 6, 7, 8 years until this game comes actually out. So within the next decade, I don't expect much to change from that. So or see come out of that, besides of course Call of Duty. Now, there would definitely be some legacy titles that they could bring into Game Pass, but probably I would own most of them already. Like, I own like the Tony Hawks and the Crash Bandicoots, and I own those games already. So if they come to Game Pass, cool. But again, not for me because, yeah, I missed a couple of Call of Duty campaigns. But who even knows? Who even knows what they could, if they can bring those to Game Pass? Because some weird deals with Sony are in place. So. Yeah, I've been saying the exact same thing. Treyarch and Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer, they're not suddenly going to do something else besides Call of Duty. I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Unless they form new studios, or they really ramp up hiring for those studios, such that they can split out their resources to different projects, like
they did with Playground. Yeah. Playground
exactly.
Games.
Yeah.
Second
exactly.
team.
Something like that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Something like that. But as you say, like Playground's easy because it's just one studio, and they've, you can say, well, just let's double the hiring, and let's form a new team. But Playground Playground are taking a good few years to make amazing Forza Horizon games. That's all they're doing at that point. Whereas, ABK is a really efficient vehicle for making Call of Duties, as the way that the company and the organization has been structured. So I can't see that changing anytime. So I'd love it to, but I can't. Like, why would they? And also, Microsoft have to, they have to make money off the acquisition.
Exactly.
They have to. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be immediate, but the best way for them to do that is to keep making
Call of Duty
games,
and keep Candy Crush alive and
keep exactly, and get Blizzard to release a game every 15 years or something that's really successful. So Blizzard maybe will change a bit. I mean, I'd hope so. Like, maybe they could get them back to some of their classic IP. They're a bit different because they take so long to make games. But
I sure don't misinterpret myself. I would love for them to change Call of Duty. Because I'm not a big Call of Duty player. I sometimes buy the Call of Duties in sale, for $20-$30 just to play the 5-hour campaign. I do enjoy those. They have great production quality, no doubt. But that's about it for me with Call of Duty. So I would love to see them do something else. Just don't see it happening. And I would love, especially with some of the Blizzard IP, like, again, StarCraft. I would also really love a Warcraft, not a World of Warcraft, Warcraft game.
Oh, yeah,
Warcraft 3, I have so many fond memories with. Would love that. I don't, and even if they do something within Blizzard to bring back some of those IPs, we're talking here like 2030 earliest. So it's kind of hard to get excited for a timeline like that, So that's why I'm a little indifferent about the deal itself. The one thing I do have to admit, though, is that if they join Microsoft, the gaming division within Microsoft becomes overnight significantly bigger. And the stronger, of course, a certain division is within a company, the more headroom they have to make other maneuvers. Invest more in technology, invest more in other studios, in maybe even new acquisitions. Who knows? That will definitely make stuff like that easier. So I do hope that we will see that being the most positive thing out of this, that the Xbox or the gaming division within Microsoft just gets more importance and easier, money to spend in the industry, whether it be on better games or new engines or whatever. You never know. I think that's an exciting part, but I do also see and have heard. I think it was either Chess or Rand Althor. One of the two said it, and it just stuck to my head, and it is so true. We have seen Microsoft moving over starting in 2014, 15 to also PC. Xbox came to PC, they did the ecosystem, they started Play Anywhere, and so on. And the trend ever since has been that their focus shifts over to PC. Their focus now is on PC. It's not on console anymore. We've talked about this so many times. Yeah, I know a lot of people here in the chat also would agree that the console gamers feel like second-class citizens. And now, an even bigger business with mobile gaming comes into the gaming division within Microsoft. Who's to say that this is not going to be like one of their new key focus parts? And it most certainly will, because they said this deal is about mobile. It's not about Call of Duty. Call of Duty is good and nice to have, but ultimately they want to expand that. So will the console gamers, the classic Xbox division, still get the same focus in Microsoft gaming, in Microsoft's gaming division? That is a real question to be had. And besides that, of course, it will take up a lot of resources within Microsoft to get the shit together that happens over there at Activision Blizzard. We know they have a lot of culture problems, a lot of lawsuits going on against the company. This just takes up resources and energy of the entire organization. And so, yeah, I'm a little indifferent about this deal. Again, gaming-wise, I'm not getting much out of it. There's potential, of course, for gaming becoming even more important to Microsoft than it has before. That's cool, but then there's also the chance that they should focus. Where do you stand on this, man? You've been silent for too long. I know, because I won't shut up talking.
I also agree there's not going to be anything for the regular consumer out of this transaction for a number of years, outside of Game Pass things. But I'll be frank, there's nothing there for me that I don't already own. I've got Crash Bandicoot, I've got Crash Team Racing, I've got the Crash Trilogy, I've got the Spyro Trilogy, I've got the Tony Hawk's remakes. So I've got all those. I've got the things that come out of there that would be going into Game Pass day one, the Call of Duties and everything. I've got them all. So nothing that goes into Game Pass makes any difference to me day dot, because I own them.
Yeah.
So it makes no difference. So for those that don't have them, yeah, there'll be like a minor plus for them that haven't got Spyro Trilogy and Crash Trilogy and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and things like that. Great. You'll eventually get those in Game Pass. But in terms of new content outside of Call of Duty, which everybody's going to get forever, there's nothing exclusive out of this transaction that you're going to get for a number of years.
It's not even the exclusive part, I know exclusives are important and they give a platform a certain identity, but
what people are kind of hoping for out of this, transaction that will benefit them in terms of things that will benefit them outside of Game Pass titles and Call of Duty being in there after 2025 for new games. Outside of that, new titles, new IP, or any new games that would be exclusive just for that platform or ecosystem will not be there for another 3 to 4, maybe 5 years. And those are ultimately what the console gamers or everybody else wants to see out of this transaction, beyond Call of Duty. On the other side, of course, then we see things that aren't for us, which is what Microsoft originally bought it for, and that is the mobile gaming. And the mobile section of that. What we will likely see is the mobile app market launch next year, following the completion of this. That will be, of course, the mobile Game Pass, and it'll have Game Pass games on there, and it'll have things like your Call of Duty Mobile and everything that go on to that, and all of those type of things. And I think you'll get perks for those games that kind of, if you're part of Game Pass, you'll get access to perks for these games, like free energy for Candy Crush and stuff like that. So
is it called energy what you buy in? Because my wife plays it and she buys stuff in there, but I've never played Candy Crush, man.
Power Up or energy or something. All got similar. All of these blinking Candy Crush copycats have all got the same. Disney had one. It was Toy Story Toy Story Crush or Pop or something like that.
You know what they need to do? They need to bring those perks and things into Game Pass and finally launch Family Game Pass plan. And then my wife could get those, and it would actually save me money. So that would be something I would be excited about. My money, yeah, but
yeah. But yeah, I don't think in terms of for us anytime soon outside of the, like you say, the minor additions to Game Pass, like you got with the Bethesda stuff, which again at that time everyone was like, yes, all Bethesda titles are going in there, and I was like, yeah, I've already got them all.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean,
being
again,
an older gamer, we've
earliest
accrued these games over time.
Yeah. Again, the earliest Call of Duty you will get day one in Game Pass is the 25 one, and it's not even confirmed. That's literally just what the earliest would be possible. So,
and the youngest one you'll get is Vanguard.
By the way, I don't know if you've seen the news, and I don't like to tell you I told you so, but I told you so. Earlier today, the Call of Duty for 24 leaked. I don't know if you've seen that, because you were of the strong opinion that there won't be a Call of Duty in 24. And
are you sure it's not the one that's scheduled to do out this year?
Well,
there's a title that's coming out this year.
So the leak, hang on, I want to get it right, is
they haven't announced this year yet either.
No, yeah, they haven't. The actor that is actually playing one of the main characters in the campaign confirmed, and it has been removed now, but he confirmed that he will play in the main character in Call of Duty 24, and it will be reportedly be a new Black Ops game set in Gulf War. So for 24. So, but it's weird, right? Where is actually the announcement of this year's Call of Duty? I don't know. Luke, have you any idea?
Nope. No idea.
No idea. I mean, Gamescom's around the corner, you know.
Yeah, it should be soon, right?
I mean, Call of Duty has been on Jeff's stage before. Last year's Call of Duty got its gameplay reveal, but it got it during the Summer Game Fest show last year. So, but Jeff is hosting the opening night live, so it could be at Gamescom. So it could be that. It's weird that we haven't heard anything from Call of Duty yet. Middle of July. So, yeah. The Activision Blizzard deal. Man,
it would be mightily inconvenient for Call of Duty to be announced now, though, with its Sony exclusivity deals in for content and early access and all of that stuff. Just like in the middle of an FTC trial. I think that Activision should do it just for shits and giggles, to be fair.
Dude, if it were up to Lulu, if it would be up to Lulu, probably she would do exactly something like that.
Highly amusing to see that one play out in court. You want exclusivity agreements? There's your exclusivity agreements. Have fun.
Good lord. So, any closing statements on the FTC, ABK, CMA, kind of topic? Luke, before we move on to actual game talk,
one little minor update to this. The FTC have requested in their appeal for an injunction to prevent them closing it by the 18th.
Okay.
Before the appeal has went through.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they mentioned in Congress, like the appeal is only going to be based on if there was something wrong with the facts provided by the judge.
Yeah.
Or what you originally provided. It's not based on new information. As the CMA have said with regards remedies, it's like we're not doing this based on new information. This is based on everything we already have, and that's exactly what the FTC don't seem to understand. Like, you've provided all the facts and the evidence now. What you have to do is provide a reason as to why the essentially exactly what they're doing with Cat, why you think our judgment is incorrect or is Not incorrect per se, but why there was a flaw in the judgment.
Yeah.
And there isn't, like, everything's factually stated there. She went through it with a fine-tooth comb. She even mentioned in some aspects she agreed with them, but overall it did not provide, and it was not even a slim possibility that they would be successful in federal should it go down that route. But overall, the transaction would be net positive for consumers, not negative.
Yeah.
And net positive for competition, not negative.
Absolutely.
So I don't see the appeal being granted, let alone getting a further injunction to prevent them. They're also stating that the injunction or at least the injunction that they attempted to put forward was the wrong injunction granted by the court, and that the injunction that they were apparently going into court for was to block the deal, and they just wanted a temporary block. And in order, what they don't seem to understand is either of those would kill a deal, which is it's irrelevant. It's an irrelevant point.
Yeah.
No matter which one you go down, it's still a block. That you were requesting an injunction to temporarily or permanently block the deal. Either of those, it makes no difference which injunction you chose to seek. It was doing the same. It would have the same effect. So the appeal court would, I think, will just rule it out.
Yeah. And probably since they filed the injunction for Tuesday, we will hear about that either tomorrow or Monday. So,
yeah.
If you guys were a betting man, when do you expect a decision? Either way, yeah. When do you expect this to be over? Let me put it this way: is it going to be this month? By the end of July. Yeah.
Yes.
Luke, what about you?
We'll have something by the end of July, I think. There is obviously, and the reason I say end of July, I have to say end of July, is because, much like I think Luke agrees, whatever they're discussing with the CMA isn't going to be a quick turnaround. In terms of legalities, documentation, that'll be required sign-off, and everything legally that needs to be put forward and agreed, both internally with Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft, and then externally with the CMA. That's not something that happens in a weekend. That's going to take a matter of weeks to go through. So I would say if they are coming to an agreement with something, then it would be by the end of the month, in which case that's when it'll proceed.
Interesting. Luke, what would you say?
I don't know. I don't know. There's
suppose you have to preface this as well, and do the CMA actually want to do a deal, or are they just stalling?
Yeah,
that's another consideration. Yeah. So yeah, I honestly I couldn't. I can't put like a timeline on it or an estimate, just because I don't know what Microsoft are aiming for here. Like, I don't know. Like, are they going to close by the 18th? Some signs point to, well, they're trying to, and then there's other bits that I'm like, well, I don't see how that's possible unless X, Y, and Z changes. And X, Y, and Z changing is mostly CMA led, and I can't see how they would change those things so quickly, given that, you know, the things that are being proposed about deal restructure and the interim order still being in place and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know is the answer. I think if they don't close it next week, which I think is still unlikely, but I could be totally wrong on that, then probably if they can come to an arrangement with the CMA and the CMA re-review the deal and say that's okay, sometime in August maybe. But it's not, I mean, Dutch is right, it's not a quick, that route is not a quick thing. So we'll be in this for a while longer. But at least at that point, I guess you would have a semblance of it's actually drawing to a proper conclusion without any controversial stuff happening. So, anybody who tells you they can, say effectively when it's going to end is either Nostradamus or they're lying. So, yeah, there's a difference between like confidence and like being like, yeah, it's definitely going to happen. A bit like kind of willing that into existence and actually knowing, and like nobody knows apart from Microsoft and ABK and the CMA at this point. So,
yeah,
I wish we had someone in there that we could ask, because it would be really interesting.
It would be, most certainly. I was the entire week of the belief that they will try to do it before the 18th. Like you said, a lot of things point towards that. But you brought up a lot of great points today that I have not considered. So, yeah, it could definitely be a little longer than that. Again, I just want it to be over so that we can talk about something else. And I wonder what it will be that will keep like being then the big talking point in the gaming community after that. Games. I sure hope it will be games.
Talking about bloody games.
Yes, although exactly.
I don't know. I've already seen people speculating like, oh, who do you think Microsoft are going to go after next? And it's like, can we? I think even Microsoft are probably tired of acquisitions at this point, even with their massive war chest of cash on hand. Like, I can't see them. They'll definitely start acquiring other stuff, but I think they'll give it a rest for a little.
Yeah, probably
after the trauma of this one, irrespective of which way it goes.
Yeah, probably. So. Yeah, we will probably come back again during the community sections at the end of the show, community questions at the end of the show. But let's actually talk about some games, because there have been some announcements this week. One came from.
Can I call out one company for being terrible at announcing a new game, and that is EA.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about EA now.
Yeah. FIFA's announced. Well, FIFA. EA Sports FC 24, that entire live stream was such a waste of time.
Yeah.
My God. That is not how you do a game announcement.
Dude, I think for the very first time, EA would actually have to do some advertisement and marketing around FIFA. Because now it's not FIFA anymore. It's simply called something else, and you need to let people know. And this kind of stream being the announcement is not it. This is not how you do it.
And they led it all the way to the end. There was loads of talk, and they had different footballers come on and talked about the leagues and things that they had in it. Basically, just repeating the information we knew, which was they've still got all the licenses, they've still got all the stadiums, they've still got all the leagues, they've still got all the competitions.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we're like, and the moment you've been waiting for, the official premiere of the gameplay for FIFA 24 or EA Sports FC 24, and then it was just another CGI trailer. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh God.
But there was actually a good announcement coming from EA this week. They announced that a new Black Panther game is in development at a new EA studio called Cliffhanger. It's going to be a single-player game. It's one of several titles that they make in collaboration with Marvel Games. It's going to be an original story, third-person, single-player. They had to say the following: we want our game to enable players to feel what it's like to be worthy of the Black Panther mantle in unique, story-driven ways, and we want Cliffhanger Games to empower everyone on our team as we collaborate to bring this amazing world to life. We're still early in development with a long road ahead, but we know the foundation to any great story is to build an experienced team with diverse voices and perspectives, and that's what we want to build, especially with a superhero as important as Black Panther. So, Black Panther game coming. I actually wonder why we haven't gotten one before. It is like such an obvious thing to do. So EA is gonna do that. And since they have done some really good single-player games lately, especially with Jedi. Technical issues aside, the game itself was awesome. Are you guys excited for this? What do you guys expect? Is this going to be an open-world game? Is this more linear-driven? What do you think? Luke, you can go first if you want to.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be. I think it'll probably be something similar to Jedi. I don't know whether it'll have the kind of Souls-like / roguelike elements to it or anything like, or Metroidvania-esque stuff, but I think it will be, it'll be a proper action-adventure single-player game, probably with some open hub stuff. I could see that happening.
Similar like kind of Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, it's kind of a ripe world for that, ripe setting. But I'm all for that. The pivot that EA have done the last few years in going hard into live service and then going, actually, this isn't sustainable. Let's kind of pivot out of that and let's just have a balance of our core franchises, which are live service. And then these big successful single player games, I think is great. They've got Black Panther and Iron Man Motive are making as well. I'm really excited for that.
Yep.
The
Jedi Trilogy, cool. And actually they make obviously the BioWare games,
Yeah, exactly.
Dragon Age coming back big time, Mass Effect.
Yeah. Maybe another Dead Space as well. Either a 4 or a remaster of a remake of 2 because that was successful.
Yeah, that reminds me, I wanted to buy that in the Steam sale actually to be able to play the remake on my Ally.
Nice, yeah. It's really, the PC port did have some stutters. It wasn't perfect, but it was much better than Jedi Survivor. It's a really good looking game as well. It's a really, really good looking game. Sounds incredible too. Yeah. Great game.
Awesome. Dutch, what do you think of a Black Panther game? Really? And hey, come on! The world of Wakanda isn't it perfect for like a video game? Black Panther being this agile superhero, climbing. You could do great things with traversal, with the technology in Wakanda. You can also do fancy stuff. There's a lot you could make of this, man.
There is. You'd have to be a Marvel fan for that. I'm not a big Marvel fan. I was okay with Spidey, but I'm still not the biggest fan of it. So this isn't being in the world of Wakanda or Black Panther wouldn't change my mind on that.
Sometimes I have to wonder why I run a podcast with you, man.
It's always the same. I played. I don't mind things like Guardians of the Galaxy because there's a big humor factor around that, and I like the humor. I like the music that goes around with that. And,
that was so cool. Good.
Yeah,
I love
it was a really good game. Really good game. Just in general, but yeah, rule of thumb for me is that I don't like superhero things, and even like watching a lot of the films and stuff. I kind of like Thor, but again, Thor was a bit silly, which is why I kind of click with it. I've got silly humor and things like that, and especially and I keep forgetting his name as the guy made of rocks. What's his name again?
Oh, Korg.
Korg is absolutely
really funny. Yeah,
brilliant. Love Korg and his little pet thing that he's got that he thinks is dead halfway through it, and then he's alive. That is brilliant. Love that stuff, but the kind of more serious Marvel stuff just doesn't entertain me at all. Not a fan. But that's just how it is. Not every game's for every person.
It's so true.
It wouldn't bother me. I am looking forward to Wolverine though. I hope it's a little bit more akin to what we got in the Logan film as opposed to the X-Men film.
Yeah.
I mean, they already said that they're aiming for a mature rating, so...
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But in terms of what I mean is more of a mature story, as opposed to an X-Men story. Logan's was super mature in its story. Obviously, this washed up Wolverine, and he's kind of getting back on it and finding his strength and everything again. And but we kind of see that in the bar. He's sitting there drinking, and he's got his vest on and things like that.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope it's more the Logan side of things. It's a bit more gritty.
Yeah, I think at least I definitely got the vibe from the CGI trailer.
Yeah, I got that vibe. And plus, they had blood in it as well, so they were clearly looking more mature. But yeah, Logan would be perfect sort of reference. Very dark, Wolverine film, quite serious tone. But I think that's what they're going for. I don't think they'll involve too many of the X-Men because, I think they want it to be about Logan in the same way that, Spider-Man doesn't contain like the Avengers or anybody else. The Spider-Man game, it's about Spider-Man and his rogues gallery. So
yeah. So good stuff there. I mean, but I don't think we will see Wolverine for 25. Honestly, with Spider-Man coming this year, I don't think that Insomniac's gonna bring that game out next year. So we might see it next year, though.
Yeah, they are wizards. They do make games really quickly, but I think
so true.
I think I'd expect it in 25, because it's not like that. They don't have the framework for that game, if that makes any sense. Like, it's not a Ratchet game, and it's not Spider-Man that they, have
the sequel to Spider-Man. Yeah.
So it's going to be, whilst I think it's going to be a game akin to Spider-Man, in terms of core gameplay. Obviously, you're not going to be swinging
and
around,
probably the engine and everything. Yeah,
all of that stuff. Yeah, so I think it will be quick for most of the developers, but maybe a bit slow for Insomniac standards. So 2025, I think. But I think we'll definitely see it next year.
Yeah, would hope so. So, what else? New remake. Remakes are coming. Need for Speed Most Wanted is coming next year. At least that's what the voice actor Simon Bailey, who voiced the character, the main character in the original game, and he outed or leaked with that statement. The game. Would you be up for a Need for Speed remake? I think it would be the first, racer remake that we got. We've been getting so many remakes, but never racers.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Not a big Need for Speed fan.
They've already Need for Speed Most Wanted, which is the one they're talking about.
Yeah,
the original was brilliant. They already attempted to do a remake of Need for Speed Most Wanted, and it was terrible. They've already
was one, really?
Yeah. There already was a remake of Most Wanted, and it was terrible. So I don't know why they go back to it and try to redo it again. Like, unless they're literally just going to take the exact same game, which was good, which worked well, added maybe online functionality to it in order to have competitive leaderboards for things like cop chase times, etc. Because obviously, back in the day when Most Wanted originally launched, the only way to kind of compete with your friends was to say, okay, well, how long can you last against the max police? So you'd have a timer as to how long you could last against them. So you'd kind of destroy them for as long as you could and last out as long as you can before you get stopped, and you'd get a timer to say how long you lasted. And that was the leaderboard that went on there, but it wasn't an online functionality, so you couldn't see it. You just had to tell your friends, oh, look, this is my leaderboard. So having that kind of functionality would be good. But in terms of the game itself, it would just need a visual upgrade to bring it into modern day, and it would be fine.
See, I don't think we need remakes of racers. There are just so many racing games out there, and I know.
Yesterday we even got the live stream for Solar Crown, which is coming out next year now.
Got a delay, to next year.
Yeah, but that's fine. There's so many, like you mentioned, we've already got a bunch of racing games this year.
Yeah,
we're getting another one before the end of the year. Solar Crown looks cool. I'll probably try it, see if Test Drive is returned to its former glory. But yeah, like you say, there's so many racing games now. Then you've got the Dirt franchise, you've got the F1 franchise, you've got Horizon, you've got regular motorsport. You've got GT.
EA have their IPs, Ubisoft have their racers, everyone, Sony, PlayStation, and Xbox.
A Need for Speed as well, so.
Yeah. So I know Most Wanted is one of the most beloved in that IP, but if you seriously think about it, if you would just port that over into into today's standards, modern day standards, I don't know if it would hold up like good. And even if they upgraded the visuals accordingly, it is just there's so many races out there, so I definitely don't need that. I think remakes only make sense when you have like this nostalgia and emotional attachment to it, and you simply don't get, or at least I don't get that with racing games. Like you do get that with great stories. But Resident Evil 4 remake was fantastic this year. I loved it. Loved it so much, and it just makes sense to do a remake like that with a game, where it's story driven, where you have a character, where you have like a better attachment, and the racers just don't have that. That's the way I see it. But yeah, I mean, if there's a market for it and people are excited for it, more power to them, man.
A secondary issue they're going to have as well is relicensing all of the music that was in the original Need for Speed Most Wanted.
And it's a big issue with a lot of games. The music. I mean, even we do have the problems with music on YouTube. So music is just weird. Moving on. Oh, Luke, did you want to add something?
Oh no, I was only going to say the only racing game that I bring back would be like Burnout 3, like remake something like that, because those I have an attachment to those games, and I think there was a more interesting ones to bring back. I think a lot of people clamour for them, but again, you'd have an issue with the music, because the music was such a fundamental part of the Burnout series. So, and EA have that IP, so like do something.
Yeah,
and they have Criterion, so.
That was the fantastic part about this Tony Hawk remake that we got a couple of years ago, where they remade 1 and 2, and they had all the original tracks and even added more from that era. That was so good. Right. Must have been a lot of work, probably just as much work than actually remaking the game, But yeah. I've been playing a lot of Diablo. I need to bring it back to Diablo, sorry. And I know a lot of people have been excited about if ABK closes soon, it might come to Game Pass. And earlier this week, Mike Ibarra came out and basically debunked a big rumor, because there was an advertisement for Game Pass on a Brazilian payment app. And this picture was floating around, and then he just came out and shut the rumors down and clearly said it's not gonna happen. So guys, yeah, I know a lot of people are thinking, I just wait on Diablo, but I wouldn't wait too long.
Buy the game.
I actually bought it twice, on PC and console. So
indirectly I bought it twice because I bought it for my wife as well. So we play together. But it's a money thing, so I'm not gonna be too harsh on people if they it's fit into their budget and stuff. But if you have the money and you're solely waiting for it to hit a game, but just buy it. It's like out of the vast majority of games out there, it's going to give you a really good return on your money in terms of time, right? Because it's just so vast and there's always so much content. So just buy it.
Yeah, I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't wait. Yeah. Even if the deal closes by the 18th, I don't think this is one of the games that will come immediately then to Game Pass. I don't see that happening. Because Blizzard has now been more than once saying, no, there are no plans to bring it to Game Pass. So I don't think that their monetization model right now for the game has Game Pass in mind. Maybe a couple of months after the deal closes, but not immediately. So just wanted to let everyone know, get Diablo, join our clan. We have an awesome clan in-game. The World of Mix-Up. Can find us, and we're always happy to play Diablo together. But, gentlemen, we are already more than 2 hours live. So I wanted to move over to the community questions. And you know the drill. This is the part of the show where you can write in questions each and every Wednesday, either on Twitter, YouTube, Xbox, Discord, wherever you fancy, and drop some questions. And of course, this week, Luke, especially after we announced that you are going to join us, a lot of ABK related questions came in. So it could be that some of the questions we already more or less covered. So in that case, I hope our appreciated listeners will forgive us if we don't discuss it all over again. But so where do we start here? Jonathan Smith writes in, do you believe Microsoft will have to actively go against their previous strategy of not being hands-on with Activision Blizzard in order to get some of those studios to do other projects in Call of Duty? It seems if they don't, they could just be relegated to do more support roles for the moneymaker. I mean, we talked about this, and I wanted to twist this question a little because we have seen this hands-off approach with a lot of other acquisitions that they did over the last years. And Activision actively needs work, a lot of it on the culture side and of things. So how do you guys expect Microsoft to handle that once the deal closes? Will there be more hands-on with ABK? Whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, I think they will to some extent in terms of instilling leadership, you know, whether that's maybe some new board members or whoever else, in terms of trying to address some cultural issues and trying to get that to feed down. But I don't think, you know, as a corollary to the conversation we've had earlier, that they will anytime soon change the kind of slate of these, you know, studios in terms of what they're, you know, Call of Duty and stuff. Maybe they would hive away like Toys for Bob to make them something else, or I mean, they shouldn't be making Call of Duty for God's sake. But you know, I don't know. But I can't see that. So yes and no. I think there will be more hands-on, but maybe not in the ways that people actually want them to be more hands-on in.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Dutch, this one goes out to you. The Prophet 2011 writes in, now that Microsoft owns ABK, dude, they are not owning them yet. I do get what you're saying. What legacy titles would you like to see come back? Project Gotham.
Fortune.
Pardon me?
Soldier of Fortune.
Soldier of Fortune.
Soldier. He's got that in his list because he's got a list like this. Let me read some of his suggestions. Project Gotham. Mech Assault, Vigilante 8, Nightmare Creatures, True Crimes, and then a gun reboot, a Soldier of Fortune, Time Shift, and Pitfall. Oh, he's got quite a wish list.
He's got a big list. Mine is literally just Soldier of Fortune.
For me, it probably is definitely StarCraft and Warcraft. Like a real Warcraft, not the World of Warcraft, you know, real Warcraft. Okay, I probably am not making much friends, but you guys know what I mean. How about you, Luke?
Oh, Hexen, 100%.
Yeah.
That's
Phil has been teasing that, right?
Yeah,
with the t-shirts.
That's, in fact, that's like one of the only things that's made me excited about the deal.
It was that Giant Bomb interview as well, where he was like, "What about the shirt?" He was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." He's what about? Like, he's like, "Hexen's a game." Okay.
If Phil seems like legit serious about doing something with Hexen above all else, so if it goes through and if they make a Hexen like a proper big budget one, it doesn't have to be huge budget, but you know, using id Tech or something like that, that would just be an incredible. Like that would be a dream to have that come back.
Absolutely.
You know, a dark fantasy FPS effectively. I mean, yeah, that would be awesome.
That would definitely be cool. Yeah. Twitch streamer writes in, and he says, "There's only one question, and it's about pineapple, and we are not discussing this. Not that again. Yeah, not gonna happen." So, yeah, Necro Ramos, our good friend Dave Ramos, our necromancer in the clan, he writes in and says, "I actually don't know, but is Starfield the first party title by any console manufacturer to require an SSD?" There's some irony in here. I don't know if you guys seen it today. Ratchet and Clank coming to PC. And the stream game
already know this.
that runs solely off. It doesn't need a CPU. It doesn't need a GPU. It only needs this SSD. That game on PC and apparently does not require an SSD.
Nope. Simply recommends one.
It says it's needed every level except for the level that it says it's not needed.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that level is to play it at 720p at 30 FPS on like the lowest settings. I mean, that must look like some potato farm or something.
Yeah.
Like an oil painting.
Like 3 pixels moving.
Like a Van Gogh or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
but still, we've been told that there are certain mechanics in the game that are simply not possible without an SSD.
We know that's not right. We know that's not true.
I mean, I loved the game. Don't get me wrong. I played it day one. I loved it.
Game.
It was a super fun game. But even back in the day, I said there is nothing in that game that I see that really requires an SSD. They've been mentioning all the time these portal mechanics, but they have all been scripted. Like there was not one portal scene in that game where even Psychonauts had them. They had the portals that immediately transferred you in between worlds, and those were not scripted. So the portal scenes, that apparently require the SSD, like traveling this fast from one world to the other, has always been within quick time events, and so they've been super scripted, and so I don't see a reason why they. And apparently I was right. So.
Yep. Yeah, and you'll absolutely be able to run that game at again, what most people will be doing is having the actual native resolution at 1080.
Yeah,
and it'll be upscaled to 1440 or 4K, whatever you want to do via DLSS with your ultra settings, with or without ray tracing, and you'll be able to run that off a hard drive if you really want. It just means that you're going to have a little bit of longer loading screens in these scripted segments. Oh no.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it can't run, which we've been saying all along.
See, even that, I don't think that you need in these sequences like the loading screens, because if you know what next scene you have to load in, you simply have to stream those things in. But games have been doing that like forever. So I don't see it. But yeah. And Starfield, by the way, is probably not the first party. Well, first party in terms of consoles. At least they are consistent. They require an SSD on PC.
Flight Sim might be. I don't know whether or not you need that runs on a hard drive.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. I mean, Star Citizen, I know that this game requires an SSD, not a first party though.
Does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are not many games though that on PC that really hardly require an SSD, so it's definitely one of the first.
You'll start seeing more. I think Silent Hill 2 remake has an SSD requirement as well.
Okay. Good.
Whenever that comes out. So
we need PC to move on and like increase a little bit the minimum specs, because we've been talking about this so many times. Basically, the minimum specs on PC is what is the lowest common denominator, and that's what games are developed for. So I'm all for it that they move along and drop maybe even the 1070, 1080 series, as minimum requirements, and the SSD should be standard by now. And so when people talk about the Xbox Series S holding stuff back, just look at the minimum specs of PC and you see what's holding game development back. So, yeah. But gentlemen, I think we can close today's show. We covered a lot of things, and Luke, it's been an absolute blast to have you on. So thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy day, and come on here and hang out with us and give us your perspectives and insights. It's always super interesting to chat with you, not just about ABK. You know that.
Yes, that's very kind.
Yeah, so thanks again for coming on, and let people know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, sure. So, again, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure chatting to you both. And you can find me on Twitter at LukeSteele90, and also on the Indie Gamer channel on YouTube if you like indie games. So come find me there. And I tend to pop up in different podcasty places, so I'm sure you'll spot me on some other podcast at some point as well.
Yeah. So it's always, again, it's always a blast. So thanks again for coming on. And if you want to find Luke on Twitter, just click here in the description of the show, and the link is right there. And Dutch, what have you coming up, man?
A nice relaxing weekend, and some gaming. That's what I've got coming up. But yeah, it's been an awesome show. Yeah. It's been an awesome show. I'm just counting down the days to Gamescom now. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, man. I'm that the Gamescom hype is real. Seriously, I'm so excited. Like, I'm not even kidding. I just bought the other day a new backpack just for Gamescom. I was like, nah, I need a new one. You know, the one I have is like worn out through all the baby faces I had with my kids, and I was like, no, if I'm going to Gamescom with Dutch, I'm gonna do it right. I sat down, okay, what do I need? I need a proper power bank. I bought a new power bank as well off of Prime Days. I got a new backpack. Yeah. I'm preparing, man. I cannot wait. Yeah, I cannot wait.
Yeah, I've got a 10,000 milliamp hour battery pack, so I'm good on that. I have 2 backpacks to choose from, both travel backpacks with laptop packs in them. So yeah, it's a choice. I have a choice of carry way.
I don't. I like my wife also. She always makes fun of me. Like, I have only 2 pairs of shoes. You know, one for work and one for everything else. That's it. Oh well, if you count flip flops, I have 1 pair of flip flops as well. So, and that's it. Once they're worn out, new pair of shoes. I don't need more. I'm a very, I don't need much.
I on the other hand, I have like 15 to 20 pairs of sneaks, so
yeah, no,
I'm completely the opposite.
I wouldn't even have the space for it. I don't know. The entire shoe cabinets are full with shoes from the wife, so wouldn't even have the space for it. So yeah, man, but Gamescom is. I sure hope that they start the press the creator accreditation soon, so that we know whether we can make it to press day or just the public days. I cannot wait. It's gonna be so awesome. But yeah, guys, it's been an awesome show. So thanks again to everyone who showed up. Super appreciate you. On your way out, it would be absolutely awesome if you guys could hit the like button, and if you are new here, consider subscribing if you did enjoy the show. We at least had a blast, and if you're on Spotify and iTunes or the one guy on Amazon Music, would be absolutely awesome if you could leave us a 5-star rating or even a review. So yeah, guys, we appreciate you all. Next week we will be back with another special guest. And up until then, play some Diablo or whatever else you enjoy. And if you see us online over the weekend, just hit us up. We are always happy to play together. And yeah, but for now, I want to say again, thank you, and don't forget to game on.